This episode is brought to you by La Quinta by Wyndham. Wherever your work takes you, you know it's going to be a good time because you're staying at La Quinta by Wyndham. They have free breakfast, fully equipped gyms, and free high-speed Wi-Fi to help you take care of any last-minute business or help keep you in the know on all things sports. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you triumph. Book your stay today at lq.com.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Many horse racing fans will have forgotten the historic event which happened at Royal Ascot on the 19th of June 1987, when a young Gay Kelleway became the first woman jockey to ride a winner at the Royal Meeting. As part of our What Was It Like To series, Gay reflects on her momentous triumph when she won the Queen Alexandra Stakes, beating legendary jockeys Willie Carson, Cauthen and Pat Eddery. This episode is brought to you in collaboration with Great British Racing International. Great British Racing International is British horse racing's dedicated service provider, committed to helping international parties navigate the networks that make up this world-leading industry and promoting stories from within British racing to a global audience. Let's hear Gay's story. What was it like to be the first woman to ride a winner at Royal Ascot back in 1987?
Amazing, but I never really looked at it like that. Just amazing.
Well, that was a short answer, and we'll cover a bit more.
All right.
We'll cover a bit more as we go through the story, Gay. But I'd like to tell the story about your win at Royal Ascot on the 19th of June, 1987. As you say, on Sprowston Boy. Had you ridden at Royal Ascot before?
I think I have. Yeah, I'd ridden in one of the 2-year-old races. I think there was loads of runners. I think it was like 30 runners in that. Coventry. I'd ridden in the Coventry previously, yes.
But that was quite rare for women jockeys to be riding at Royal Ascot at that time.
Yeah, I think I was about the second woman ever to ride at Royal Ascot. Joanna Morgan was the first one, the Irish jockey.
What can you tell me about Sprowston Boy?
Well, Sprowston Boy, I rode him as a 2-year-old and finished 4th for Goodwood on him on his first start. And I said to father, he wants as far as you can go with him. I knew that as a 2-year-old, that he wanted a trip, you know. And I think I'd won a few races on him beforehand. And he was just going slowly up the ranks in handicapping company. And previously, the week before Royal Ascot, I won on him at Sandown. But I was the boys were a bit tough on me when I was riding, because obviously I was about the only woman, especially down south, riding. There was a few up north, you know, Kim Tinkler, but there wasn't a lot of us, and Wendy Carter and Julie Fallon, but there wasn't really a lot of us. And especially down south, there was like no one, I don't think, but me. But so I was the only girl riding at Sandown that day. And it was quite a competitive field. You had all the top jockeys in it. And I put him in a pocket. There was quite a few runners, I think about 15 runners, over a mile and a half. And I put him in a pocket, and he basically we got quite stuck in. And I've come out into the straight, and you think it's a long straight at Sandown, but it isn't really when you're stuck there and you can't get out. And there's 2 to go. I'm still stuck in there, and I couldn't get out, so I pushed my way through. I mean, in this day and age, I would have kept the race because I won 5 lengths. But in that day and age, and so anti-women actually being in the sport at the time with the jockey club, which they were called, now it's the BHA, they disqualified me. Plus, Walter Swinburne had a bit of grievances against me, so he objected and ended up losing the race, which probably played to my advantage that happened because I didn't get a penalty for the following week at Ascot. So though I was bitterly upset at Sandown, it paid dividends going to Royal Ascot.
So was he targeted for the Queen Alexandra Stakes?
Yeah, he was always targeted. I thought father was a bit mad because it was a stakes race. It wasn't a handicap. And I knew we had a horse going up to Scotland. Whenever I had a lot of friends up there. I spent a lot of time riding up there. And I was keen to go to Scotland to ride this filly, who I knew would be an absolute certainty at Ayr. So I was keener to go there and ride a winner than going to Ascot and just being also ran. So when Father said you're going to ride him at Ascot, I was a bit hesitant, and especially against so many good horses from Guy Harwood's stable and various Guy Britton, all big stables, to Michael Stout. I was a bit hesitant about riding a race like that in that sort of category. But I thought with the rain, when the rain actually fell and it was heavy, I thought all played into our hands a little bit, because he relished that softened ground. And I knew he stayed all day because he just galloped the horse, he just kept going. And he was very fit. Father always got his horses very, very fit, very fit. That was his massive advantage. He's very much like Mark Johnson. He always has horses very, very fit. And I knew if I did the right thing on him and made him really test his stamina, he'd definitely have a crack at it. I wasn't going to go there for nothing after not riding that filly up at Ayr. And she won. I watched her win at Ascot when I was there. I'll never forget going into the big tote room there, of course, and big crowd of people, and I watched her win. So I was a bit gutted when I saw her win. George Duffel rode her. And it's funny how you remember things like that very, very clearly, so.
Yeah, we all do that. We all remember things about 30 years ago, and we can't remember what happened yesterday. What was the build-up like to the race?
It was a little bit nerve-wracking because they kind of put me in a place in the middle of the course, in the main grandstand, the old grandstand, where all the waitresses and people that worked on the race course changed. And it kind of, I suppose I wasn't shut in a little room on my own, which kind of helped. But they thought it was quite funny because they thought I was doing a fancy dress. Because I was a woman putting jockey silks on, they thought it was like some sort of fancy dress gig, a hen do or something, So, I had to walk through the course with my silks on and the helmet on. That was kind of weird. And people sort of made comments and, I don't think they realised there was a woman riding in the race,
Yeah, because the other jockeys in the race, we've got Willie Carson, Cauthen and Pat Eddery in the same race.
That's right. Greville Starkey. Yeah, all the top boys in the race, yeah.
Can you remember your father's instructions in the parade ring? You've probably said that you knew he stayed.
Yeah, Father just said, sit in box seat, blah, blah, blah. I didn't really listen to him. I kind of knew the horse would stay, and my plan was to jump out in front. He jumped well out the gates. Actually, I don't know if it was a gate start. I think it might have been a flag start, actually. So I knew I got a flyer from the off, and I'm going that first turn in front of the grandstand. He just felt so good. He loved the ground. It was really deep. It was coming over their ankles, and I knew I made it a really test of stamina. I got a nice even pace, but I kicked at Swindley Bottom. I thought, let's see if these horses are fit enough, the jockeys are fit enough, and I'm going to kick from here and go for my life. And I did. And I just kept pushing and pushing. And I actually dropped my pedals a couple of holes down at the start because I knew I had to work hard. As I come into the straight, I thought, God, I hope I've done the right thing here. Any minute now, Eddery could pass me. But I thought any minute they're going to pass me. And I looked round and they're miles behind. And I just kept going. I literally rode a finish coming into the straight. And I think, God, what's Ascot? About 3.5 furlongs in the straight, isn't it, at that time?
You won by 8 lengths.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought I'm not going to stop. Kept going, rode to the line, So I think Carson was second, and that gave me great delight because he's so cocky and he loved beating me. He's always taking the mickey out of the other jockeys when they finished second to me. So it was a hell of a beat.
So you still get a chance to remind Willie Carson that he finished second in that race?
Well, actually, funny enough, I forgot it was Willie Carson that was second in that race, but I will remind him because he keeps reminding me that he finished second and he got a race. I got disqualified because they reckon I was claiming the wrong allowance. This was early on in my days riding. I was riding lots of winners as an apprentice, and the jockey club didn't like me doing it. So those above decided they've made up this new rule because amateurs had never turned professional before. I'd ridden 10 amateur wins. And in those days, if you'd ridden 10 winners on the flat as a professional, you lost your £7 claim. So therefore, I was claiming too much at the time, in their opinion. They made up the rule as they went along. It was a joke, really. It'd be in my book about the incident. And though we got a top lawyer, a barrister from London to fight the case, we never actually got the races back. I lost 4 races, in which 2 of them, I think Willie Carson was second. So it gives great glee. But I will remind him that aspect, don't worry.
And now one of his sons is working for you.
Yeah, Neil, his son, one of his sons, he's a good one. He drives a lot for me, does a lot of my racing.
What was the reaction on the course and from the jockeys after your win?
I think they're not like nowadays. They're much more camaraderie, really, in this day and age. They're much closer. They all look out for each other a lot more. In those days, it was hugely competitive. And I think Willie was so sick, he never said a word. Pat Eddery never spoke. Lester said, well done. And Steve Cauthen. The American jockeys were much more kind of, not so much normal, but more like they are today. You know, it was so competitive in those days. And you've got to remember, back in those days, we only had the 4 days and 6 races. Whereas the girls riding winners now at Ascot, they've got 5 days, haven't they? And extra races, 7 or 8 races a day, you know? So it's much more, they've got more of a chance. And plus the trainers are much more open now, you know, there's much more diverse now. Whereas in those days, you'd never see Sir Michael Stout ever put a girl up.
It was a momentous event for you to win the race.
Yes, it was. I never thought it was a massive deal. Being the first, I never really thought it that way. I just thought it was a hell of an achievement actually riding the winner at Royal Ascot, being a jockey and being an apprentice that I didn't claim as well. Remember, I was a £5 claimer and I couldn't use my claim in that race, which you've got to admire my father for letting me ride because there was other top jockeys still left in the weighing room. But he insisted he wanted me to ride the horse. And he's a very clever man, father, and he must have known the horse had a hell of a chance. So maybe he was thinking more of the history rather than me. I never really thought about making history. I thought after I'd ridden there, I thought it was more girls were going to eventually come along. My father used to say I was 10 years too soon. More like I was like 30 years too soon, really. Because now, like, how many years on is it now? 34 years? How many years on is it now since I rode that winner? 30 odd years?
36 years ago, yeah.
36 years ago. So 36 years ago, and my father said, you're 10 years too soon as a jockey. If you're a girl 10 years' time, it'd be a different world. But how wrong we were, you know, it took about 25, 26 years for girls to be recognised as riding in races and appreciated. And it's only the last, 4 years that likes of Holly Doyle, you know, the other girls, Joanna Mason and people like that, and Hayley Turner, actually given a chance to ride horses at Ascot, you know. Still, there's not very many. I mean, how many times the girls ride at Epsom this year? Not a lot. No girl riding in the Derby this year. It's a shame.
Was it emotional winning the race for your father?
Kind of emotional. I don't think I shed a tear. I was hugely proud of the horse. It was wonderful, the owners, because they were coal miners and they stood in the paddock with the Queen. Emotional. I think more so now with the media and the social media and the TV. Don't forget, it wasn't on television. They cut you off by then. They only televised on BBC One a couple of races, 3 races. Isn't it like now? You know, you can see all the races. We didn't have racing TV, nothing like that. So basically, I was dragged in. So I'd won on the Friday, and then Julian Wilson at the time was the BBC commentator, asked me to come in on the Saturday and do an interview. Yes, that's right. They dragged me on breakfast down to Selena Scott. But remember, it's quite sad because unlike nowadays, I had no ride the next day. I'd ridden that winner at Royal Ascot, and I had no ride the next day, you know, but that's how hard it was. You know, the likes of Clive Britton supported me and the small trainers up north and the company small trainers down south. never really 100% accepted. It's always a struggle to get rides. It would have been a different story now, wouldn't it? You ride a big winner and they all want you.
So would it be fair to say then, from what you just said there, that the win didn't change your life then?
I wouldn't say it. Look, it didn't change my riding career much. It made me more recognised. And yes, I got rides, but I had to work damn hard to get rides. I wouldn't say it changed my life financially. It didn't make a lot of difference because father took 50% of my riding fees, and it was not bad. It helped pay my mortgage. I bought myself a house, an apartment. So it all helped financially, but it didn't speed up my it didn't speed up my career at all. I just got recognised more. And I did get. Unlike now, if you've done something like that, you'd be on every TV channel. They'd be looking for this and that and the other. And basically, there was a few interviews. The newspapers came around, did interviews. I suppose in those days, Stephen, you had all the national newspapers wrote a lot about racing, didn't they? Whereas now, there's hardly any racing. You're lucky to get raced. Even the racing cards in some of the newspapers. Very minimal now when they talk about racing. It's all football and other sports. Whereas in those days, we did get a lot of coverage in the national newspapers. I'll give it that. And I did get a lot of coverage after the race.
In our previous podcast, in collaboration with Great British Racing International, I spoke to young Newmarket-based trainer Harry Eustace about his 2022 win at Royal Ascot. The horse Latin Lover was his first runner at the Royal Meeting. Here's a short clip from our recent podcast with Harry.
Getting into the race sort of felt like a win. So, after that, you go through any field at Ascot and it's obviously very competitive. And so it was sort of hard to judge where we would end up. But on the day, price-wise, tipped us. And it sort of gave us a bit of confidence. But we'd been watching, we thought we were drawn well, and then we were watching the racing, and then maybe we weren't drawn well, and we were sort of unsure about the draw, which, you just have to get lucky with. And sort of as it turned out, we were just about okay, but we thought we were good, but actually Stan's side ended up being, I think, the better side to be drawn. But we just managed to sort of track it across mid-race enough to be able to sort of challenge with them. So it worked out well in the end.
You said earlier it was another 32 years before Hayley Turner became the next female jockey to win at Royal Ascot.
Yeah, I said to Hayley, you better hurry up and ride a winner at Ascot because they'll be wheeling me in. I said, I don't want to be in my Zimmer frame by the time that someone rides a winner at Royal Ascot. And she actually called me that day after she'd won. I was at Goodwood Races. And I was absolutely delighted for her. I said, at last. I sort of took a big breath. I said, and a friend of mine said, oh, wasn't it a shame, you could have had. I said, no, because racing won't go forward. We need racing to go forward. We're still at a standstill with women in racing, and riding winners at Royal Ascot is a massive landmark. It's a bit like riding a winner at the Derby meeting, and Goodwood. It's really important that girls ride winners at these big meetings, especially Royal Ascot. But it was a long time. I mean, I think Alice Greaves and Emma O'Gorman got a few rides, but they took, and even Hayley took a long time to actually ride a winner at Royal Ascot, didn't she? She had a lot of rides before I think I only ever had at Royal Ascot I rode in the Gold Cup. I think I only ever had 4 rides there at Royal Ascot in my whole career.
Well, Hayley Turner won on Thanks Be for Charlie Fallows in 2019. She won again in 2020 in the same race. Hayley's now won 3 races at Royal Ascot, and Holly Doyle the same. And Holly Doyle in 2022 won a Group 2 race, the Coventry.
That's right. And that is an achievement. I mean, Holly and Hayley, thank God. Holly more so, she has a great successful career. She's done a hell of a lot. She's ridden over how many winners? I think she's ridden more winners than any girl in a year. And she was in the top. I think she's in the top 5 jockeys. Every trainer puts on the same level as any top jockey. You know, you'd have no fear of putting Holly up in a Group 1 or a classic. I just wish I wish she had more opportunities, you know, to ride in classics, Holly, you know. Just getting on a good horse, isn't it, really? She's proved that when she won in France. She won the
French Oaks, yeah.
She won the French Oaks last year, I can't remember.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the future is a lot brighter, though, now, finally, for women jockeys.
I think so. There's a lot more girls getting into it. But I think you find the reason why is because it's got to the stage, the staff situation is so poor. Lads aren't coming into the game. They're heavier. Girls weren't even accepted in racing. I mean, I remember in 1982, the PJA secretary wrote to a girl that wrote to the PJA and asked how would she get into racing. She'd like to, you know, become a stable hand of groom. And they wrote back. I actually got the card, and it wrote back to this young lady and said, horse racing is not really for girls. It's best you choose an alternative career. So that's how hard it is for girls to get into racing. And now, because of the staff situation, trainers have to employ more girls, and young girls that are alike, say, right, hey, we've got the British Racing School. You know, we're on equal terms. The world is very diverse. Let's have a go at being a jockey. And there's a lot more girls. In fact, there's more girls, they were telling me at the racing school, taking the course than the lads at the moment, which is a good thing.
How now then do you reflect on that day on the 19th of June 1987?
I remember coming home, and my boyfriend waited a bunch of red roses for me, and my sister, my brother, my mother, they all we went out and celebrated that night. It was a bit surreal, and it's kind of like I was kind of relieved. You know, it was hard work keeping your weight down. I was one of the tallest jockeys riding, though the jockeys now tower above me. There was like Lester Pigger, me, and Steve Forth, and one of the tallest. Everybody else was so short. And they were basically Willie Carson's height, you know, riding. So the wasting, the dieting was getting on top of me a little bit. And I thought, well, I've done this now, and fortunately, thanks to riding a win at Royal Ascot, when I retired from race riding, before I started training, I got a lot of good jobs. You know, I got good jobs in journalism because of my Royal Ascot win and being known. It opened a lot of doors for me. It was, it's the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Riding with a Royal Ascot, because it opened a lot of doors, and I will always be remembered for that. And then when my days are over, I'm sure, at Royal Ascot, it will come up in a quiz question or in a book. My name will be there. So it's not nice to achieve something you'll be remembered for.
And we spoke off air, and one of your dreams would be to train a winner now at Royal Ascot.
Yeah. The closest I came to it is in the Buckingham Palace. I got beaten in nose with Barge. I've been second. I've been third in the St James's Palace. I've been fourth a couple of times, fourth and third in the Royal Hunt Cup. I've been placed in the Jersey. It's it's a bit disappointing. I mean, it was great that week when we had a great week back in, I think it was 96 or 97. We had a brilliant year. We went to Ascot. We were like in the top 5 prize money, without a winner, top 5, 6 prize money without the winner, because, they all get in place, which was great. The good horses, they had good horses that year, and one horse, but in Sorby Tower, that was third in St James's Palace. But and since then it's been a tough call. And then that was in 97, and then further down the line, 2000 something, I finished in 2004. I finished second in the Buckingham Palace with Barge in the handicap, and I'd actually backed him at 40-1 before the race. And he got beaten, and literally smidgen got taken across the track. I think nowadays we probably would have got the race. John Egan rode him that day, and he said we should have got the race in the steward's room, but wasn't to be. And that's basically the closest I said, as close I ever get to a Royal Ascot winner, and it's been like that ever since. I've had a few fun runners, but nothing serious. And then we ran Look and Magic back in 2020, and he was third. He ran an amazing race. That was exciting. So that's the closest I've been since. And after that, I've just been having fun runners. And I haven't really got a 2-year-old ready enough to go in the big races. And it's so competitive, full fields. really, really competitive. More so, they bring horses from abroad now, from America, Japan, Australia. So it gets tougher and tougher every year. So competitive. So it's something that I'd like to do, but it's more of a dream than a reality, really.
Well, you became the first woman jockey to ride a winner at Royal Ascot 100 years remarkably after Ellen Challoner became the first woman trainer to train a horse to win a race at Royal Ascot. Thank you very much, Gay, for joining me on the Paddock and the Pavilion for your What Was It Like To moment.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you for listening to the Paddock and the Pavilion.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
You are getting sleepy. Your CPAP mask is clamped tightly to your face. You will not toss and turn through the whooshing. You will not throw the mask.
It's not working, Harold.
People who struggle with CPAP have partners who struggle too. Luckily, now there's Inspire. No mask, no hose, just sleep.
When I snap my fingers, you will remember to visit inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.